Hi, this is going to be a quick intro to the Solvent platform. I will show how to create applications and use some of the interesting features built into it. So this would be the first video. There's likely a second video to follow after this. So let's, assuming that you're logged into the portal and you have, purchased an instance. It's fairly easy to get access to your instance. In this case, this has already been created and set up. If you open that up, it'll open up the instance for you. This one would, you know, it'll open up. It might show a browser warning error. That's only because we're using the IPs and they're not tied to any particular TLS certificate. That can be fixed if you set it up to use a proper host name with a DNS entry and have a certificate uh, setup. So let's create an application just so we can run through this quickly. Say demo. This is just going to create a standard web application. The platform is built on top of the JVM, but when you're using this, you really don't have anything to do with the JVM. You're just going to create what would turn out to be a straightforward web application. We're not going to do anything extra, so just click create, and it'll go through the process of creating the web app, and it's created it. It will open up the HTML page for you. It was also going to spin up the pop-up to actually show the web app. Since the browser was blocking it, will allow it. And or you could do this: right-click on the application itself and say Open in Browser, and that will actually open up the application and shows you a simple web app. It fills in a template. Nothing exciting here. Um, You open this up and you get your boilerplate stuff. What I really want to show is how you build front end uh, applications, or at least the front end of a web app using some of the cool technology that we have in here. So I'm gonna create a Vuetify based application. Vuetify is the UI framework, and Vue is the component and reactive framework back in it. It uses all of the object modeling technology that you'll find documented on the website and in some of other videos. So I won't get into the details of that, but it's using all of that stuff to allow you to do some pretty cool things. So the first thing you do if you want to create a UI front end or a UI front end part of your application would be to create an object. Um, because what you're essentially doing is object modeling of the framework itself. So let's say Utify app FE, that's the front end. And we're going to look for the actual front end object that we're essentially the type of the front end object. We're still doing some work to simplify some of these flows. So, as update comes out for the platform, some of this stuff should become somewhat easier to get to instead of having to navigate through layers of the structure. We are working on ways to make it fairly easily accessible. But let's access, click on this. What you do here, this is basically associating a type with the object that you're going to create. So once you click that, it'll do the association behind the scenes. So you click that and it creates the object for you. And we have a Vuetify object. And it will, when you open that up, it'll show up here as um, a preview window for the object itself, the front end object. If you look at the code that gets generated, standard code, it already has all the view based uh, object initiation in there. So I'll go through this quickly again. I don't want to run too over the video. So let's create a user interface here. It's going to create a user interface object. You open up that user interface object and you say, I want to use Vuetify as my framework because when it comes to UI frameworks, it could be anything. It could be Vaden, it could be a React-based framework. It could be Quasar, which is another Vue-based framework. So for now, we only have Vue to 5, but we're working on those. So you choose that, as the framework that you want to create UIs for. Now, if we come back here and you take a look at the source, you'll see it's already created the Vuetify wrapper, which is the framework's wrapper for Vuetify library. Um, Still nothing to see. So let's open that again. Vuetify has, in addition to the app wrapper component, you kind of have to create a content uh, wrapper around it. Some of this, there's a lot of clicking in here, but again, if you think about creating an application, this is something that you do once and then you'll spend most of your time actually building the application. So it's not a big deal that you have some of this clicking through, but we actually have options to, to automatically create some of these structures for you. We haven't integrated it yet, but it's there. So again, we've created a content wrapper, so it's there. Again, nothing to see here. Now we're actually going to try to add something that you can view. So if you open that up, um, you go back to the type repository. Now we're going to add a toolbar, which would make it begin to look like an actual application. So scroll here and look for toolbar. And when you do that, it'll automatically update. So now we see what looks like a toolbar in here. Again, if you look at the source code that gets generated, now you have your toolbar. All this stuff is schema driven, so we can um, let's add a property to this toolbar, which would allow us to change certain things on the toolbar. So let's choose settings. And now you can still open the settings object, but I'm going to show another way of doing it. Let's add a property from right clicking on it. We can first add the app property. What this does is basically just uh, pin the toolbar at the top. And let's add a color property. Call this green. And now we have what looks like a toolbar. So let's add another object, a UI component in here. Of course, everything in this environment is object-based. So what you're doing really, the environment that you're looking at is a UI environment for construction object models. So the stuff that you see on the left here, this is an object model of your UI front end. It has types that map to the actual UI target framework that you're using. Um, and the platform does all the magic behind the scenes to make it all work. So we choose a button. Let's call it button 1. And if you click that, it'll then add a button to the toolbar. So you get the button here, just as we did for the toolbar where we can associate some properties or settings or attribute, whatever language you want to use to describe it. We can do the same for the button. So let's make this button small by, again, going here. It says small, turn that to true, and it'll make the buttons a little bit smaller and fit it into the toolbar. Um, you could also pull up the properties from here. It For the settings, you'll have to open the settings object, and it's all schema driven, so it exposes all that stuff for you. There's a lot to the object modeling technology itself, which I won't get into here simply because I'm trying to make this video somewhat succinct. So now let's add some interactivity to this button. I'm going to add the event that will react to user input. So we add the event object. Again, it gets pulled up because it's all schema backed, so you can actually you get all the help due to the schema. So let's look for the click event in here. You click on that. You could change the name of the event. We say when click. This is just default, but you could change it to on click if that works for you. Some of the design ideas in here is to all right. So I'm going to end this and switch over to a second video to show the actual interactivity. Thank you.